Am I wrong for being upset that my husband sold my late sister's sewing machine? So my sister passed away 3 years ago, and one of the only things I kept from her was her sewing machine. It was nothing special, it was probably about 20 years old and barely worked. And to be fair, it had been sitting in the corner of our garage collecting dust. But my sister loved sewing, and some of my best memories of her was sitting with her while she made things for our family. So keeping the machine felt like I was keeping a piece of her. And my husband knew this. Last week he decided to clear out the garage while I was at work. When I got home, I went to look at his progress and noticed the sewing machine was gone. I asked where it was, and he told me he'd sold it on Marketplace because it was just taking up space and collecting dust. I was absolutely devastated. He said he genuinely didn't think I would mind because I never used it, and I've told him before that we didn't have enough storage. I reminded him that I specifically kept that sewing machine because it belonged to my sister. And his response was, it's just an old sewing machine, not like it's her ashes. That completely broke me. He thinks I'm just being dramatic over something that was just useless junk. But I think he had no right to sell something which had sentimental value to me. Now he's saying I should have put a note on it if I didn't want him touching it. Am I wrong for being upset about this? My take, I'm completely on her side with this one. The sewing machine doesn't have to be valuable or useful to matter. It belonged to her late sister, and her husband knew exactly why she had kept it. If he wanted to clear out the garage, she shouldn't have had to put a note on something. He should have opened a line of communication and asked her. And honestly, that comment about it being an old sewing machine and not her ashes, that would have really upset me too. He doesn't have to understand why something is sentimental, he just needs to respect it. If your partner has told you something holds sentimental value, you do not sell it. He may have genuinely thought he was getting rid of something useless. Once he realised how much it meant to her, the right response would have been to apologise, not tell her she was being dramatic. So no, I don't think she's wrong for being upset. He didn't just sell an old sewing machine, he sold something that couldn't be replaced. Am I wrong for refusing to swap my window seat after boarding because they promised their kid a view? So I was flying home after an exhausting week, and I specifically paid for a window seat. I like leaning against the wall and looking out. After boarding, a mum and a child who was about 7 got on. She asked if I'd swap from the window to the aisle seat so her and her son could have the middle and window seat. Apparently, she'd promised he could watch the clouds. I politely apologised and said I'd paid extra for the window seat. And the mum looked annoyed and the son started whining about how unfair I was. Mum was muttering something about how people have no kindness anymore. Flight attendant did come over and told them that I had no obligation to move, but the rest of the flight was really awkward. The mum giving me dirty looks, and the boy whinging next to me. When I got back, my friend said I technically did nothing wrong because I'd paid for the seat, but would it have been that much of a big deal to let him sit there, even if it was just for a little while or a few hours of the flight? But all I was thinking was if she wanted a child to have a window seat that bad, then she could have paid the extra like I did. But after my friend spoke to me, I'm wondering whether I was justified, or could have just given it up for the sake of a child. Am I wrong? So my take with this is I am firmly on the OP's side here. She paid extra for that seat. Therefore, the parents' request is completely unreasonable. They also had the option to pay extra for a seat. The biggest issue is they didn't pay for a seat, but also promised their child that they'd get to look out the window, when they didn't know that that was going to be a possibility. That isn't something another passenger has to fix. If the window is that important to their child, then they should have booked it, and not expected someone else to give theirs up. And there's no harm in asking, but once someone politely says no, that's the end of it. Whining, giving dirty looks and complaining just isn't necessary. She absolutely could have been kind and given up her seat, but she was also under no obligation to do it. This story screams entitlement, but OP's not wrong.